Hello, this is Alexa, and this is the Wishbeads podcast. And I am so excited because I have my new friend, Devin Alexander, here with me today on the podcast. And if you don't know Devin, you probably do because she's been a huge media personality for the last 20 years. She was the celebrity chef on The Biggest Loser. She is a many times over New York Times bestselling author. She is known for the amazing work that she does as a nutritionist and coach and a speaker. She herself lost 70 pounds in her 20s. And she has a mission to teach people how to be healthy, happy, healthier in all of the work that she does. But I'll tell you the truth, even though all that stuff is so super awesome, I had a wild experience where she got to share with me her journey of manifesting her family. And it was from some visioning work that she did. And after I heard that story, I was like, oh, forget about it. We got to have you on the podcast. So Devin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
Sure. I just love what you do. So I wanted to be here.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Devin and I have some mutual friends. And when I was participating at a vision board workshop, which of course is so in alignment with Wishbeads, and we're recording this now in January of 2020, that, people coming together to really picture what they want to create in their lives. It's a really powerful experience. Maybe you have done vision boards in the past. Certainly a lot of the work of Wishbeads is around visioning, going through the guided visualization. But in this experience, I saw firsthand what happened. And then tell me, Devin, what year was it where you wanted, so tell me a little bit of the story about how you wanted a family, specifically a child, and you had done this visioning workshop, this envisioned workshop, like either a year or 2 years earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, a lot of that. So I had been going to our friend Pam's vision board parties for years and knew a lot of the group of girls because she's an event thrower and, brings us all together. So I had wanted to be a mom basically forever, and my career got in the way. I was one of those people who was jumping on planes and had this amazing life and drinking champagne and feeling empty, to be honest. Just constantly on the road. It was a catch me if you can with men, and not in a way that I thought I was above anything. It was just like I was never home, and people would get disappointed, or I'd be on a book deadline and I'm like, oh, I'll go out with you in a week and a half, or whatever it was. So even though I deeply longed to be a mom. And then in my, early to mid 40s, I went to a doctor to get fertility tested, thinking that people always say I look young, that my insides would be like my outsides. Boom, not the case. And actually, I was told in 2015 that I would likely not be able to have kids anymore,
Wow.
Which was blow. They said that if I wanted to, I better do it immediately, and probably wouldn't even work if I didn't have $30,000 to throw away. Probably shouldn't even try. And so I was a little heartbroken, and honestly would have been more heartbroken if I hadn't done a lot of work in the foster care space and secretly had always wanted to have a child and adopt a child. So fast forward, I get in a really bad car accident at the end of 2015, and there is no way that I'm going to be carrying a baby in the time that, I was told that I could even try to have a baby. So that dream was crushed. So 2016, at the vision board party, I find a picture of the baby that I think I should have.
And you probably found it in the pages of an Oprah magazine or who knows what? You just saw a baby picture.
I found her online, actually.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
Yeah, I searched online because I knew specifically what baby I didn't, but I knew when I saw the baby, I would know the baby. Because I wanted a chef baby. So I found this picture, and then fast forward, wasn't really that present in it. The next year, I had started dating a guy in around New Year, just before New Year. And it was one of those, wow, he's also an entrepreneur, and he's been on TV, and he's done all these things, and he's amazing, and he has 2 older kids, but convinced me that he would adopt kids. And even though I had sworn I was never dating another man who had already had kids, because I had 3 experiences where guys told me, once I was older and like looking to date, they had said they wanted kids and then they changed their mind after like the relationship was full bore. So I kept breaking up with people, and he convinced, like he was the one who brought it up on like a fifth date that he would adopt kids. And I was like, really? So then but that January, when I'm totally in this bliss of like, I met a guy, someone at the vision board party found this thing that said baby for Christmas. And literally someone's like, who needs a baby for Christmas? This was a woman who already had plenty of kids. And 4 people screamed Devin. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't even know that people, I guess I was more present in that, whatever. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. And I stick it in the center of my vision board. So 2016 has a picture of my baby. 2017 has this.
Baby for Christmas.
Yeah. So fast forward, April comes along and the guy asks me if I'll move in with him. And basically I'm like, yeah, because he was where he was, whatever, not like next week, but if the relationship went down the road, if I do that. Literally 2 weeks later, he sits me down and says he was acting just super weird for 2 weeks. And then I was like, maybe I didn't respond right. Maybe I wasn't excitedly saying yes, whatever. So he's like, you know what? I was thinking, or he said, he started the conversation with, remind me what you said about wanting to be a mom. And I was like, oh no,
here we go.
And literally tears started dripping down my face. And I always said, like, I couldn't even respond because I knew where he was going because I'd had this conversation before and I was like embarrassed, but it was just what it was. And I literally, the way most girls get a haircut, in a knee-jerk reaction, within days, I was at Westside Children's Center, like potentially fostering a baby. And then I realized after going to this orientation that when you foster, you can lose a baby. And I'm like, oh, I literally like 10 minutes in and was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I can't take a baby and lose a baby. Like, I'm too, like, I just don't know how to lose a baby. Like, I wouldn't know how to give one back. So I decided that I'm going to be very strategic about this, the way I am about everything in life. And I interview over 50 families to figure out what the cases were where people got to keep babies versus not keep babies. So I narrow it down to 2 cases. Meanwhile, I decide how I'm going to go, like that it's better for me to go through the department as Department of Children and Family Services, as opposed to going through a private agency, even though a lot will argue that it's better to go through a private agency. And then literally on January 4th, I started the process. The social worker told me that it would take 120 days to do her process. And I was like, no, can't take that long. And she was like, I have 50 families. She was loving it. She's like, I have 50 families. And I'm like, but we do things quicker. So she looked at me like I was nuts. And every week I didn't hear from her. I would just send her a text that said something along the lines of, can't wait to see you again, woohoo. That was it. Didn't require a response, just wanted her to know how flippin' excited I was about getting a baby. So long story short, she finished her process it was July 3rd that she was first at my house, and we finished her process on like August 24th. So it was like 46 days or something.
And this is all now 2017?
2017. When I would get a baby for Christmas. So in my head, I was sure I was getting a baby for Christmas. Long story short, Thanksgiving Eve, 1:30, I get a call. We have your baby. And, or like this woman who I'd befriended in the process of talking to a million people, a social worker, called me and she's like, I have your daughter. And I was like, really? And I had a really specific criteria. There were only 1 of 2 cases I was even going to take, because those were the chances that I was going to like not have to give her back. And a 3-day-old baby girl was picked up from the hospital by me in 3 hours.
It's unbelievable. And here's the moment where we're going to have to do a cutaway. So if in fact you are just listening to this podcast, I do a video that's on our YouTube channel at Wishbeads on YouTube. And if you're just listening, this is the moment where you're like, you cannot believe that the image that Devin found online in her dream scenario is literally looks like the exact picture of your daughter. It is, I mean, even for me, I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
Well, you know what's funny? The recreation of the picture doesn't even look as much like her as the real version, which is kind of funny. Like when she photographs like more exotically and like blonder hair and bluer eyes and like with the light. But like in person, everybody who knew her thought that it was her, which is crazier.
It's crazy. Crazy. And Devin, the other thing that I think, there's so much about this, about your own story, about visioning, wanting, even facing challenges within how you thought it was going to show up is such a really important lesson for anybody who is curious about the Wishbeads or manifestation process, because there's some really core elements that whether or not you used a wish bead piece of jewelry, it doesn't really matter. It's the same principles, and that you listen to like a calling of your heart and knew that this was something that you wanted. And then there were these other circumstances, biological circumstances, relationship circumstances, and you really stood back into your power and said, we all have the choice and the specificity of knowing what was going to work for you. Meaning like, I'm going to do my due diligence and realize that like, what's not going to work for me is to attach to a child only to have to give them back. Like, no judgment. That doesn't work for you. And some people could say, oh, well, foster children, it's really about the child and what's in the best interest of the child. But I love the fact that you knew what would be in the best interest for that child and for you, would to be to have a circumstance where this child would never likely go back to their birth parents.
And I have to say that like I had to do a lot of work in that area because I got lucky too. Like I will say that. I like worked really hard on this. And I shared the story about the social worker. Like there's people who take 6 months to a year and a half to get through the certification process. And I, started, as I said, I made the decision on April 30th when I broke up. And then on June 4th, I started the process being educated. Like I was so educated on what I was looking for and why to go through the Department of Children and Family Services, even though some people will tell you it's easier to go through a private agency. And then I had an agency that kept being like, oh, you're a unicorn baby. Oh, you're a unicorn baby. And I was like, I literally said to the guy, what does that mean? Like, how many of these babies have you placed? And like realized that their agency wasn't the right agency for me and was like really in tune with that. And then when things got stopped in the process, honestly, like I called in the child with more manifestation. Like I told my daughter that I'm like, if you're out there and you want to go to the beach all the time and you love tennis and, this is what my life is like, and I would love for you to join me. And I had 21 women actually come do happy baby hours where we all came to my house. And before I painted the room in the color pink for her, I had women write on the walls in pink, like loving messages to her that they wanted for her so that the space would feel like a ton of love when she arrived. So there were so many pieces to like the work that I did. And as I said, I don't want to, like, for families who've had to give kids back, I don't want to pretend that I didn't get lucky because I did.
Do you know my grandfather used to say, I don't think he originated this idea, but he used to say that luck actually stood for labor under correct knowledge. And I think that it's very, I agree with you. I can't imagine the pain of having to give back a child that you bonded with, that you love very much. You'd probably be a wonderful parent for. It is a very complex circumstance. But I also love the fact that you really threw yourself into it and you did the work, which oftentimes people can have wishes and then they get disappointed that their wish didn't come true. But the accountability piece, the actual action piece there to give yourself the full spectrum of knowledge, information, love, visioning. I actually want to go back to that, like the things that you did to nurture this vision. You made a vision board. You actually kept the vision. So you didn't have this vision and then say, oh, well, the doctor said, I'm not fertile anymore. Or I got in this I have the worst luck in the world. I've gotten a terrible car accident. Poor me, poor me. I'm sure you had those moments. Don't get me wrong. You're a human being. But then you kept on feeding the wish. Can you share with us a few more examples of how you fed that wish surrounding, writing messages of love in your daughter's nursery? Are there other rituals that kind of came to mind that you did?
Actually, yes. So this was prior to getting my wish bead bracelet and prior to knowing about you. But I made bracelets, the stamped type bracelets that I had made one with the name that I always wanted my daughter to have, and two that said magic on them. And like every time something would stop, like I would sit in her room, like the room that I created for her, because you have to be a weirdo in the foster care system from the standpoint of you have to create it, and it will like they force you to do that in foster care because they have to see that you have the crib. You have to, as a single girl, be driving around with a car seat because you might get that call at 1. I made a whole list of the questions that I was going to ask, because that's the other piece. When I said I was only taking one of 2 scenarios, I got really educated on asking questions like, does this family have other kids in the system that have been detained? Have they been adopted? Where are they? Because those are questions. Like if moms, which believe it or not is very typical, have 3, 4, 5 kids that have already been adopted, the chances that you get to adopt this child are really great. And that is common, former foster kids having lots of foster kids. I'm trying to think what else. So that list, like my assistants had it. It was in every purse. It was in, like, there was no way that I was going to be anywhere that list wasn't available when I got that call, because I knew that my brain would not work when you get this call, like, we have your baby. And, I should also say I turned down 3 children before I got my daughter, because they weren't, I knew what the questions were for me. I knew what the answers needed to be. And I just didn't, like, I was committed not to saying yes, because I knew that they'd still call you again if you say no, because you said this isn't a fit. Like, this child isn't a fit, and it worked. Like, as I said, I think I saved myself 3 probably giving kids back or, 3 times giving kids back, because I was that prepared. As I said, I did the happy baby hours. I literally just made videos to her every time I felt like the social worker didn't come back as quickly, like I waited a couple of weeks, and then I'd be like, I feel like it's stalled. And at one point they forgot to put my information in the system. Like, they put that I was certified, but they didn't have my match criteria. So I learned that when they called me offering me a 17-year-old, and I was like, she's not going to fit in the crib. But then I was trying to get it fixed, and, in the government bureaucracy, they're like, no, we have to wait for a clerk to put that in. Oh, I know. One of the other ones was the woman who eventually called me and gave me my daughter, called me a couple weeks before. And remember, this was like over Thanksgiving. There was another family that had a child, a foster child, and they were going to be going away for Thanksgiving. And she called me and she's like, oh, I need you to take this child, just for like 2 weeks or something while this other family's away. And I was like, but I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to babysit somebody else's child. And she's like, well, you have to do this 30-day stint. Like, some people were trying to tell you that you had to take a baby that you weren't going to keep for 30 days, knowing you weren't going to keep them. And I was just, my friend got a baby and this person got a baby. And she was like, yeah, they got lucky. And I was like, well, I want to get lucky. And I was like, is that going to put me higher on the list? And she's like, no. Well, it turns out that if I had said yes to that baby would have been in my daughter's bed. And I wouldn't have been eligible to get my baby.
So interesting. And honestly, I'm going to keep going back to this idea of the specificity. I mean, even imagining you, I know you had to do it, but you are literally driving around with a car seat in your car for probably, which was like 6 or 7 months, 6 months, 5 months?
Well, it was from the time I was about to get certified. So like late August until late November.
Late November. But you're driving around. This whole idea of like, of being it before it happens. I really think there is some power to this. And I know there's a classic story about Jim Carrey when he was a struggling actor, writing $1 million check to himself and putting it in his wallet. It just, there is power there. You're telling the universe, I'm serious. I'm working. I'm ready. I am ready, willing, and able. Thank you. And then you're sprinkling your good energy. I want to even highlight the fact that you texting good vibes to your social worker, that is not only just energetically a good thing to do, but you're literally creating these channels to make this stuff happen so that that person be like, oh yeah, I've got to, or they think of you and they smile, or they think of you and they remember to do the last little technical minutia thing on your paperwork that needs to happen. I mean, so many beautiful things, but many of us walk around this world feeling really powerless to what we want to create, what we dream of creating. And instead we're just like, oh, not me. That happens to other people, not me. And thank you for your honesty about really sharing how hard you worked and how much joy, like how you were, when you were ready, and you like did all the things,
Well,
it's
and
really beautiful.
Can I say a couple crazy things that I think will be of interest to people too? One is, so my daughter's mom, the scenario that I chose two scenarios, one of which was a woman who had a lot of kids. She was the only one of all of this woman's children who did not get a name. Like when the social worker showed up at my door, she was like, she didn't name her, what's the name? And I was like, because I knew her name, but I wasn't planning to call her the name, because it's like, if you have to give a child back, like then I would have called that child the name. I couldn't call the next child the name. And this was the name that I always dreamed of. And in that moment, the social worker's like, oh, she won't go back. And I was like, do I give this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm committing to her. Her name's Cayenne. And my little chef daughter name. And so I did, and it worked, number one. And then, wait, there was one other thing that I was going to say in the end. Something else that happened, and now I spaced.
It'll come back. Yeah. And you adopted her, correct?
I've now adopted her, yeah.
And you've now adopted her, which is so beautiful. And I don't know, I mean, maybe even after this recording is over, if you have resources, links, any information that you can share with people that may be navigating this similar process, could just anything like that, it feels like it would be really useful, especially after listening to this podcast, because I have had some friends who have navigated the foster care system. I've had friends who have worked in servicing teens that are just recently coming out of the foster care system. I'm one of my newest dear friends. She is out of the foster care system. There's just so much work that can be done around that, because whether it's new babies that are born, but children that are also looking for homes, and there are people that are interested in supporting foster children at all different ages and levels. And so any resource that you have, I think it would be neat to be able to include it in the show notes for this episode.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just, I'm so in awe of you, Devin. I really do. It's like you can feel the love for your daughter and the joy in which you've stepped into motherhood. And then you also just embracing this idea that your wish can shift just a little bit. Like it may not show up the way you thought it was going to show up, but that wasn't the end. It was just an invitation to reinvent.
Well, and honestly, I was told, like, I always knew I was going to be a mom. And like, those are the things that I dreamt about. And I knew that I would never feel like, I honestly was the whiny 37-year-old who didn't have a baby. Like, I mean, seriously, like I felt bad. Like I didn't know how to be grateful. I mean, like there was a time where a lot of my girlfriends were like, I'm too old now or whatever. And I never felt that way, like not for a minute. In terms of like, I need to be a mom, and, and I wouldn't outwardly whine all the time, but I would, be upset. And I'm like, I'm so lucky I have this amazing life, but like, I don't feel fulfilled. And I should probably say that my big fear in going into this process was, what if like there's just a hole in me? Like, what if a baby isn't going to fill that? Because a lot of times they say, oh, couples have a baby and they think that's going to make them happy, and then it doesn't work. Yeah. But I was right, like the gut feeling of mine that I needed to be a mom, that I needed to experience this, like from the second I got her was like, yes, this is what was missing. This is why I felt whiny inside, even though I am grateful. I was grateful for everything, but I still had that nagging, like, I can't let this go. I don't know how to let it go.
Yeah. So you didn't, you created it.
I didn't.
So
Yeah.
you created it. It's really cool. I'm excited for people to see a picture of your beautiful Cayenne and the picture that you found on the internet, which was part of the calling card to the universe to be like, baby, I'm your mommy. We just have to connect the dots somehow to make it
Well,
work.
and that's one of the things that like she is a mini me. Like I forget that she is not my bio. Like some days I'm just like, there's no way she's not my bio baby. She like you can everybody thinks she's my baby, but they know that the dad is like exotic or something. She like even has my like thick thighs and she has my love for food. Like every time she eats something, she's like no 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 no. Like it's so funny. And I don't know if I created that after or what, but she literally like she loves the beach. It's
Yeah.
everything she's way more perfect than I ever could have imagined.
Oh my gosh. That is so awesome. So is it like, do you have a little inkling of, I mean, you're obviously very good at this, manifesting things that you want. Do you have an inkling or have you taken away from this experience sort of a new skill set, if it were, like of what can you create now in your life? Are you actively working towards something or?
I am. I mean, it's interesting because I'm at a crossroads in my life. Like I mean, I moved from Pennsylvania by myself and, got to be the chef on The Biggest Loser, which people have always asked me how I did that. And, I've always believed in big dreams. My parents were very much like my dad, his comfort. We didn't get a lot of hugs. We got keep on keeping on. So I've always sort of had that. I mean, I got my first job in LA by writing literally a script between a pencil and a piece of paper to a producer in Hollywood when I was in college, like who graduated from my college. And so I've always taken big actions. I think I shifted, like, I think you have to believe you're lucky too.
Mm-hmm.
And some people don't believe they're lucky. And there's this book called The Luck Factor that plays into all of this that I read and really helped me because I think it's like, oh, I never win anything. It's like, what have you played? You know what I mean? Like, you've never won concert tickets. How many times have you, like tried? Because I was never I never thought of myself as lucky. I also never thought of myself as unlucky.
Yeah.
But I realized you can set yourself up for luck. And
Yes.
sort of like I will never again say I'm not lucky. Like I will never think that I'm not lucky because I never would have gotten this little girl if I weren't at least somewhat lucky.
Yeah.
But again, you have to, put everything in there. So I guess, I mean, I have super big dreams, one of which is in addition to seeing what I saw with my daughter, I'm actually in the midst of a huge fight for another little girl who has had major injustice. So hopefully I will manifest an ability to shine like the most giant spotlight on this because part of what made me appreciate my daughter even more is what I saw happen after. I had been outwardly like, everybody go do this, making jokes about like, oh, I know the other thing that I was going to say was, so here I was following traditional norms for so long, like going on these bad Match.com dates, going on bad, whatever dates, being like, why can't I meet my husband, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that, I was past the age where it was going to be easy. I just was. And I would go on these dates and be like, okay, at what point do I tell this needle in a haystack of a man that I can't have kids, but I want kids? I mean, it's a weird.
It's a complicated thing, and you're very clear about what you want. Like,
right. And so, but it's like you go on dates, like hoping that you're gonna like, as I said, at that point, it was a needle in a haystack. Like, I literally have to somehow find this guy who like really wants kids, but doesn't care that I can't have them, but's gonna have them with me. You know what I mean? And like, let's go down this crazy road of figuring out adoption and spend tons of money or like doing IVF when they've already told me, whatever. Or like, we'll surrogate for you. And then you might later decide that you get to keep the child because they're your biological child, not mine.
Ay.
Right? And
Yeah.
so the reason I do it for so long was because society says that you're supposed to meet the guy, then you're supposed to have the baby, right? I mean, I know that's changing, But so like I welcome everyone to like consider that actually your life will be easier to get what you want in some ways if you get what you want by yourself in other ways, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think there is something to be said for the fact that here you are standing in a different situation with your heart filled on your purpose, integrating both your career and motherhood, and that wholeness is actually the foundation of what also creates really great relationships. So for you, your path to freedom was taking an, decisive action, smart action, lucky action, and creating that for yourself. But it's true, you can kind of go in with a little less pressure to like find the one because you had something, so specific that you wanted that, maybe finding that one be a little bit easier, I would imagine.
Well, at least it'll be a little less heartbreak if I don't meet him. Like I don't even care that much. I mean, I do. Like, I would love to meet my soulmate if a friend tells me there's some awesome guy. But otherwise, like, I just cherish the time that I spend with my baby. Like,
yeah.
I know that I'm supposed to take breaks, that I know that I'm supposed to do whatever, but I miss her. Like, I miss her when she's at preschool. Yeah. I make her laugh every day as a form of meditation. I really do. Like, I went from doing this like vision statement every morning to just getting her to giggle. And
that's a great job.
I'm not
giggle instigator.
It's so much fun to like figure out new ways to make her giggle every morning and to hear, like, there's no sound in the world that makes me near as happy as her little giggle. And there never has been. So like, I think that when I meet somebody, like, she's part of the picture. It is what it is. You can't, and I think it'll be a lot less like either you're in or you're out. You're not gonna 4 months later be like, yeah, adorable, super fun daughter who lights up every room and steals every show is a deal breaker for me,
Yeah. Getting clear about what you want and then taking decisive action towards it. It's amazing. I thank you for your honesty. And I really think that the more people that can be candid about their own experiences, and certainly if people want to learn more, is there a good way to be in touch with you?
Well, devinalexander.com is my website.
Great.
DEVINALEXANDER. And otherwise, like, I have a whole fans at devinalexander.com. And if people want more on, my weight loss story and things, that's because that's another thing to vision.
Absolutely.
Vision. And also, like, one more thing quickly is I knew that I wasn't going to lose weight until I enjoyed the process. So whatever it is that you envision, you've got to figure out a way to, like, I eat the foods I love and I tell myself that I'm supposed to be eating them, not that I shouldn't when I'm having a treat. And I think that's so powerful in,
yes,
that side of things too.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you shared that so beautifully too, even about those texts. Like, I have no doubt that navigating a brand new world of the foster care system to you probably was wrought with a lot of anxiety. But the more that you could intentionally put love into it and focus your energy on how good it's going to feel to bring your baby home to her beautiful room, how good it feels to share that energy and their energy with your friends in that room, and how good it feels to look in their back seat, even though there's an empty car seat, to know that one day it's going to be filled. And that love, that energy imprint that you're doing is literally the fertilizer for your wishes. Your energy, your attention, your laughter, your love, your talking about it, your action steps. It's literally like the garden of your dreams, and it requires nourishment. It requires intention. And I love how you show up as such a powerful force in the food world, because the diet culture has been such a mind mess for people that is really based on shaming and bad, and you're not good enough. You're, all of this, which how could goodness come from that? Yeah. And so we really need thought leaders such like yourself, to really teach something different, and to talk about a new relationship to basically any challenge that you're facing. Don't be in resistance to it and resentment, but be open and curious and loving to yourself along the way, because energy attracts like energy.
Well, so actually, if we have another minute, I'd love to say one more thing on that.
Please.
So I had an eating disorder. Like I was bulimic and really struggling, more just, the constant like weighing myself 28 times a day and all of that for years. And then someone told me never to talk to myself in a way that I wouldn't talk to a 5-year-old. And so I went and got a locket which would be a great thing to put in a wish bead or on your phone, or a wish bead bracelet, I should say. And I got a locket that as a ring and put a baby picture of myself in it, like a 1-year-old picture, and said that I would never say something to her or never say something to myself that I wouldn't say to her. And obviously I never tell my 2-year-old that she's a pig or she's fat or she's a slob or she whatever. Like when I want my daughter to change her response, it's like, oh, sweetie, why don't we do this? And when we're trying to lose weight, that's not what we do. We say we're ugly. We say we're whatever. So that shift alone in my weight loss was huge in overcoming so much.
It's so beautiful. The compassionate voice to your inner critic, to the spots in ourselves that want to, for whatever reason, tear us down because they think like, well, what's going to happen if you don't get that wish? Like that wish is too big for you. You don't deserve that. And to churn that around to a loving voice is so, I think that's a beautiful thing. What an important reminder and a lesson. And really the way that we somehow permit ourselves to speak in the quiet confines of our minds, it's not helpful, and it's all energy. So it doesn't matter if you say it out loud or you just think it, it's an imprint, And so to change that and turn it into a loving tone, or even just a more just slightly more compassionate tone, to just hold open curiosity instead of criticism. It's a big shift. And truly, no matter what you're looking to manifest in your life, more optimal health, better finances, career growth, family, whatever, it's all the same thing. But I also love that you wished so deeply. I love that you wished so specifically. And I love that you met that challenge and let your tenacity really guide you ultimately to like literally exactly what you wished for. I mean, literally, I can't wait. Side by side pictures. It's crazy. And, it's beautiful. So Devin, I mean, whatever else you are manifesting for yourself, for your daughter, for your community, for the world, I am glad to have your pro wishing skills out there.
Well, I'm so glad to have your bracelet to help me, because I really do believe that every reminder we have, especially when they're that beautiful and, you have so many different stones to represent different things, but no, I really do believe that the reminders need to be there for us, because it's easy to forget and get, in LA upset by the guy in traffic or whatever it is,
Yeah, and life is busy.
And, as somebody who you probably get a little criticism too, I don't know how anybody could ever criticize you, but people have these weird things online and they'll say something stupid and it's just like, that person is not spending their energy. Like I never, ever, ever would spend a moment of time, saying something negative about someone online, because I'm up to big things, So anybody doing that, anybody who's ever, making anybody else feel bad anywhere.
It is funny, but people do. And then someone was just telling me this, that when they get a negative review, because this happens to anybody who's putting themselves out there, it just happens, like it just does. Yeah. And what they do is that they then go and they find a business or a coach or someone that they genuinely love, like even a local business, and they go and leave a positive review. That's what she every time. And I was like, what a beautiful practice, just to like take whatever energy and turn it around and do something good. And I thought I try not to read because I'm still a very, busy. Like I teach online courses, which means that I get, hundreds of reviews every month for courses and things like that. And occasionally I'll read them and they're mostly really lovely, but occasionally you get one person. So every time I'm going to hear like a negative review or whatever, I'm just going to make sure to go out of my way, go to another, a doctor or someone that I actually genuinely love their business, and take the time to leave a positive review. Just change that energy around.
I love that. I have not heard that before, but yeah, I have my own little fixes for that. But that's a really good one.
Yeah. I have another friend who said that her brother, whenever there's a bad review, she's an author, her brother then reads her reviews on her voicemail in a funny accent. He'll read the negative review in a funny accent. That's another way to handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changing the energy. Who knows? But regardless of reviews, it's so beautiful to just see you create it, you putting your energy out there. I love what you do. I cannot wait to see what else you create in this world. It's so awesome. So I hope we can stay, connected with your story and even update this. And I wish you good luck with that other beautiful, beautiful soul out there who may be waiting to come to your home for a sibling.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, good. We'll be sending you good thoughts about that as well.
Thank you.
Devin, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it. We're going to keep all the show notes, so links to find out more about Devin Alexander on her website, devinalexander.com. We'll be posting any links that she finds useful to share with you about navigating the foster care system. And thank you for listening, all you fabulous listeners and watchers. And Devin, a very special thank you to you to sharing your busy schedule with us and delighting us with your story.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much.